Good. Well, welcome. This is the 1:30 p.m. press conference here on the glass incident. My name is Jonathan Cox, Deputy Chief and Information Officer on the incident. Just a few things to start off. As usual, if you could mute your cell phones, take any conversations outside the press conference area, as well as adhere to any COVID-19 precautions that are in place that include social distancing and wearing of masks. As always, there will be opportunity at the end of this for a question and answer from the representatives who are up here. And with that, I'm going to hand it over. We do have a Spanish translation service in place, simultaneous and recorded for this one, so there will not be a Spanish language version at the conclusion of this.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Le quiero avisar a nuestra comunidad que habla español que la conferencia estará disponible en los canales Univisión y KMX hoy más tarde. También será traducido en español y disponible por Cal OES en el canal OES YouTube. Gracias.
Just a quick incident update here on the glass incident. We're currently sitting at 56,781 acres, 5% contained as of 7 o'clock this morning. As you're aware, we're under red flag conditions right now, so our focus is really contending with these changing conditions out there on the line. We confirmed this morning that 143 structures total have been destroyed on the incident, and 46 have been damaged. That includes both structures in Sonoma and Napa County, and that process is ongoing. That number is likely to change. That is not the definitive end number. With that, we still have over 24,000 structures that are threatened by this fire. That is in areas in both counties and a large swath of evacuated zones, both under orders and warnings. Currently, we have over 2,000 firefighter personnel on the line, 2,108 to be exact. We're on a 24-hour shift rotation with one crew doing 24 hours on the line and then a crew coming off and doing 24 hours off the line. And there are still evacuations, not only ongoing, but new evacuations being called, and those are coming out as they are deemed necessary. With that, just hand it over, as usual, to Mark Brunton, CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 3 Operations Section Chief for the very latest on the actual situation on the line.
Good afternoon. As has been noted, that we are currently in a red flag watch and red flag warning. So this is having a significant impact on our fire. We're seeing winds that are transitioning to a northwest flow. This is going to be impacting our fire as I go around the fire area and explain the areas that are going to be most impacted by this weather condition, not only with the winds, but the very hot and dry temperatures and already the fuel conditions, the vegetation that is extremely dry. So starting up the two zones, we have an east zone in Napa County, west zone Sonoma County. In the Napa County area, fire is impinging upon out on the outskirts of the community of Calistoga. There are resources and assets in that area doing point protection and structured defense in that area. It is not into the city limits by any stretch at this point, but it is something that we are closely watching, monitoring, and taking action on. Fire has impacted now on the Highway 29 north of Calistoga, and so we are seeing an impact to that and some road closures in that area. Moving into what's called Branch 4 and Division Hotel, very steep, rugged, tough terrain to fight fire in, and fire is established and running in those areas. Moving into Division Juliet and over towards the community of Angwin, the fire is impinging upon the outskirts of that community. We have structured defense actively engaged in that area, as well as I talk more about aircraft usage in that particular area, trying to get the fire skirted around the community of Angwin, and then also Pope Valley, not directly impacted, but is being threatened by the fire. Also south of Angwin, fire's making some runs in that general area and to the south. We have the Highway 29 corridor in the valley floor, not directly impacted, but there is a lot of still heat in those areas from the initial fire push, and we're closely monitoring that with the flow of the winds that we're expecting, the hot and dry temperatures and conditions that we expect that there's going to be an impact to the valley floor as well. So we have resources providing calls of service throughout the valley area. Moving over to the division uniform area, on this side of Highway 29, going from the Napa to the Sonoma County line. Did a firing operation, did part of it, but the fire was outflanked our operation, and as a result, we do have fire that is pushing towards the Oakville community, and we have resources actively engaged in fire suppression and structured defense in that area. Moving over into Sonoma County, we had a successful firing operation going from the top of the ridge, Sugarloaf State Park, down to the valley floor. We have success there. Again, with this flow of the wind, that is a concern for us. I have about a 50% confidence that that line is going to hold. So there is a potential threat to the community of Kenwood and potentially even Glen Ellen. Highway 12 corridor is looking actually very good. We have active patrol and mop up in that area. So the communities of Oakmont and into the city of Santa Rosa is looking very favorable and good. We did have some impact to Annandale State Park. We had a firing operation a couple days ago there. We are still monitoring the success of that operation. If that holds, that'll be really good for us in that area. Calistoga Road through the city limits looking very good. Mop-up patrol mode. The rest of Calistoga Road has not crossed Calistoga Road. We are having success in Division Zulu, where it goes to the county line and connecting over into Napa County with our control lines. That's looking really good. Had a successful burn operation there. Aircraft, we have some limited aircraft that we have that we're using. The problem has been the air conditions. They can't fly in the smoke conditions that we've been experiencing. When we have the targets of opportunity and the clean air, we are flying the aircraft, both fixed wing and the rotary wing aircraft, and utilizing that to the best of that resource capability to assist our personnel on the ground.
As you know, the incident is under unified command under 9 agencies now, to give you a sense of the scope of this incident in both Sonoma and Napa County. And speaking first, one of the agencies in unified command from the city of Santa Rosa, Police Chief Ray Navarro.
Thank you, Jonathan. So first of all, I'm pleased to announce that we've had another day of no looting or looting-related arrests within the city of Santa Rosa. We're continuing to provide increased traffic and staffing patrols within the evacuation areas and also warnings with the assistance of mutual aid, including the San Francisco Police Department and the San Francisco Sheriff's Department. We are encountering people who are illegally entering some of these evacuated areas. So we ask that you ask as a reminder that these evacuation orders mean that it's unlawful to enter any of these areas. That includes do not remove any of the barricades. It becomes very dangerous when those are moved, and it confuses other residents who might be in the area. Also, do not park and do not walk into these mandated evacuated areas. It is unlawful to be there both in a vehicle or on foot. And we also, please don't demand to be let in. Our officers are doing a job. They have a specific mission that they're tasked with, and that is to provide safety for both the community and the public safety officials who are within these areas. So please don't ask them to, or don't demand entrance into any of these areas. There are no changes to the existing evacuation orders or the warnings within the city of Santa Rosa. There's no change to the evacuated residents. We currently stand at residents under the evacuation order are 12,925 residents, and community members under the evacuation warning are 22,631 members of our community. Just another reminder to get the latest evacuation information with a detailed map and the address search tool. Use the address search tool that's available at srcity.org/evac-updates. Again, I want to thank the community for their patience and those who are honoring the evacuation orders at this time, and just stress that you use patience, and again, thank you.
Speaking next from the City of Santa Rosa Fire Department is Chief Tony Gosner.
Hello, everyone. Tony Gosner, City of Santa Rosa Fire Chief. I'll be brief. You heard a great report from Mark Brunton. Our general concern is the Annandale area. We have a lot of resources in and out of that particular area doing tactical patrol, as well as up Calistoga Road. So we are watching that closely. We do have, for all the Sonoma County residents, we were able to upstaff a task force of engines with a leader within the county, and their job is solely to help with all initial attack fires. It's really important that we keep any new starts that happen in Sonoma County small and put them out so we can focus on this fire and get through the next 2 days of the red flag warning. With that, you could follow, for additional updates, you can follow fire-related information, which is available on Facebook at Santa Rosa FD and on Instagram and Twitter at Santa Rosa Fire. Thank you very much.
Speaking next from the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office is Sheriff Mark Essick.
Good afternoon. I just have a few brief comments as well. I echo many of the sentiments that Chief Navarro shared with you about reentry into evacuation zones. Currently, staffing at the Sheriff's Office remains the same. We have additional 50 deputies on patrol in the evacuation areas. They are there to direct you to safety, answer your questions, and protect your property and your homes while you're away. The biggest concern that we have regarding evacuations is this red flag warning that has gone into effect at 1 o'clock today and extends through tomorrow evening. My main message for you today is that more evacuations are possible. Although we have been talking about repopulation in some areas and many people are getting anxious to get home, there is a real certainty that we could have additional evacuations if the fire begins to burn into the areas that have been described today. So what you can do to stay prepared and be prepared for that is to continue to sign up for Nixle and SoCo Alert so that you can be informed. Keep your cell phone charged and nearby. Make sure you have at least a half a tank of gas in your vehicle. Pack your valuables. Those include your important documents, papers, medications, and preparation for your pets. And if you do not get the alerts, but you hear the high-low siren, it means it's time to go. Important to remember, high-low means it's time to go. If you don't feel safe, evacuate. You don't have to wait to be told to evacuate. If you're not feeling safe, you can go. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for updates at the Sheriff's Office. And this is also an important time to check in with your neighbor. Once you have prepared yourself and you have everything ready to go, check in with your neighbor, see if they have any special concerns or needs, and see if you can help them to be prepared as well. Thank you.
Speaking next from the Napa County Sheriff's Office is Under Sheriff John Crawford.
Good afternoon. Initially, I have no criminal activity to report over the last 24 hours, which is good news. Some unfortunate news, of course, is we've increased our areas of evacuation warnings and orders today. To be clear, however, that those orders and warnings do not extend any further south than the points of the Silverado Trail at Zinfandel Lane and State Route 29 at Bella Oaks Lane. This area is basically essentially just south of the area of the city of St. Helena. There are several pockets of warnings and orders north of that, and in fact, we do have evacuations ongoing north of the city of Calistoga at this time. As always, when we advise you to leave under an evacuation order, we would very much appreciate it if you leave. Those dangerous conditions are obviously life-threatening, and it's not unusual for people to be asked to evacuate, choose not to, and then when fire arrives, require additional assistance, which puts firefighters and law enforcement personnel in more danger than is really necessary. If you do choose to ignore those orders, please, if you could, stay on your own property. Don't move about. The area is dangerous, and there is active firefighting as well as utility repairs that are continually ongoing, or inspections, if you will. If you do choose to move about, or if you've entered the area unlawfully, as previously mentioned, I would expect to be contacted by a sheriff's deputy from Napa County or any of our other allied agencies. Those instances will be properly investigated and will be properly enforced should the need be there. Last, I'd like to thank everyone in the public for your cooperation, for your understanding, and most importantly, your support during this wildfire event. Thank you.
Speaking next from the California Highway Patrol is Captain Aristotle Wolf.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good afternoon. I'm Aristotle Wolf, your local CHP commander here in Sonoma County. The CHP continues to staff and support our law enforcement, firefighting, and emergency responder partners in both Napa and Sonoma County with resources from all over the 9 Bay Area counties, while still being able to keep up our patrol responsibilities and otherwise keep you safe on our highways. We would like to just give our normal reminders that the key to getting where you want to go punctually is to do so with patience and planning. Make sure you check your alternate routes. There are a lot of major arteries between cities that are closed, including Highway 29, Silverado Trail, and over in the Sonoma County area, Highway 12, Calistoga Road, and Arnold Drive. Those are major ways to get places, so please pick another route and you'll be there on time. But that's the key to that. We'd also like to remind people that as you are traveling, along with fires, power outages happen either on purpose because they're trying to work on those areas to get them repopulated, or as a consequence of the disaster. So if you see a stoplight that is flashing red, you should know what to do. That is just like a stop sign. If you see one that's blacked out, it's a stop sign. Treat it as such, please. We don't need to add to the problem by having unnecessary accidents. I would also just like to say, as you heard from our partners at CAL FIRE, that we are going to be in a red flag warning for at least the next couple of days. That means it is extremely important that no combustible materials are thrown outside of vehicles and that you watch where you park so the undercarriage of your vehicles do not start another fire. This community has been amazing. The Napa community has been amazing at getting through these, and all we need is your cooperation, and we'll get through this one. Thank you very much.
Speaking next is the Incident Commander for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 3, Billy C.
Good afternoon. Obviously, the red flag warnings with the high winds predicted are a huge concern for the incident management team and the glass incident itself. Multiple communities within Sonoma and Napa counties have been affected. Today, obviously, we've created a traffic checkpoint in Lake County on Highway 29. That includes 3 affected counties now. Obviously, Lake County hasn't been fire impacted yet, but how the winds are predicted right now, it should push the fire away from Lake County and keep it in check from moving that direction. But with the terrain out there, the deep drainages, the heavy fuel loading, and the dry conditions we've had, once that wind subsides, it's still going to be a major concern because there's lots of areas that we could have uphill runs towards the Lake County area. The team's been working diligently. The firefighters have been working diligently for the past 3-4 months now. It's been a long fire season, and we're still at the heart of the fire season here in California. Usually when you enter October, November areas is when we have the heavy wind events, when we have the dry conditions, especially in Southern California. Obviously here in Northern California, we saw significant lightning activity a couple of months ago, which started all these events up here. Now we're faced with this glass incident and trying to get around it the best we can with the resources and the boots on the ground. The red flag warnings will remain in effect until Saturday morning. At that time, the weather's supposed to ease up on us, and hopefully Mother Nature will play nice for a bit so my folks can get a little bit more aggressive on the ground and be able to herd and get around this fire and develop some more perimeter control. Obviously, you heard we're at 5% now. Each day we get small wins. Those small wins are going to end up in a big success at the end. We'll hold strong and true through this wind event, and we'll make sure we get around this quickest and safest way possible. Thank you.
All right, just a side note on this. We've had a lot of outpouring of people wanting to support firefighters, drop off food, and all we can say is, first of all, thank you. Secondly, we are in no need of any support as a firefighting and first responder industry out here. We're self-sufficient, and we have a very kind of methodical process, but we appreciate the outpouring. We'd also like to acknowledge that there is no fundraising that goes on from the fire service. So anyone out there trying to raise money for firefighters, we do not solicit money, and that is not affiliated with any sort of fire agency. Just wanted to get that out there. People always ask, what can they do to help? A thank you card or some sort of poster means a lot to a firefighter who's come off a 24-hour shift on the line. To just see a note means a lot to them. So that is one opportunity. With that, this afternoon, we're actually lucky to have the state's leadership from the public safety and security agencies in California. And I'd like to welcome up to the stage our state officials. Firstly, the Director of CAL FIRE, Chief Tom Porter, the Director of the Office of Emergency Services, Director Mark Gilladucci, the Commander of the California Highway Patrol, Commissioner Warren Stanley, and the Commander of the California National Guard, Major General David Baldwin. They're here to give a brief update for a little bit of a higher level information. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Chief Porter.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for being here and for paying attention to very important messages by all of those behind me. This is a team sport. We cannot do this alone, and every agency that has been up here today has expressed that, and statewide, that is the cooperation that you see and should see, no matter where you are, no matter what is unfolding in and around your communities. We are very well organized here, and we're very well exercised as well. I wanted to cover a couple of high points from a statewide perspective. 23 major fires still tracking today, of which this is one. We have also, in the past 24 hours, we have put out 23 fires that could have been fires like this one. So we continue to put out fires as we're fighting this fire throughout the entire state. That's all of our federal, local, and CAL FIRE partners working together. Just since August 15th, over 3.6 million acres have burned. Just since August 15th. Since the start of the year, 3.95 million acres burned. It's likely that over the next day or two, we will crest the 4 million acre mark. Biggest year before this year, 1.54 million. We are dwarfing that previous record, and we have a lot of season left to go, as was previously mentioned by Chief C. We are continually adding to the numbers of firefighters. We're also, through our partnership with our federal agencies, and our EMAC resources directed and coordinated through Cal OES, Director Gilladucci. We're bringing in firefighters from outside of the state, outside of the nation. We have 17,000 firefighters on fires today in California. Not all here, but a lot of them are here, well over 2,000. We have 343 fire crews at work in California, 293 bulldozers cutting line, and about the line. Just to put a line around the fires that we currently have, we have well over the amount of line that it would take to go from San Diego, cut fire line with bulldozers, hand tools, all the way to New York City. We have a lot of work to do. 118 aircraft of various types, helicopters, fixed wing. We heard about the challenges with fixed wing with air quality and the ability to see. That is true. But just yesterday, 80,000 gallons of retardant went on this fire with our fixed wing air tankers. A lot of retardant. 300,000 gallons of water put on this fire from our rotary wing helicopter in conjunction with our partners and the National Guard for sure. Those out-of-state resources, I just want to go ahead and reference them directly. 122 fire engines from out of state. And thanks to our partnership, again, Director Ghilarducci and our EMAC capabilities, we've brought in engines from New Jersey, Montana, Utah, Texas, New Mexico, Washington, and that's just the out-of-state resources. Thousands of firefighters from across the state are in the fight and represented by most, if not all, of the cities in California, definitely all of the cities that have had resources to give that haven't been fighting their own fires or disasters or other issues that are going on. But we have firefighters from all over the state that are attached to all this. Last statistic I wanted to give, and this is just for this year, and it's just for CAL FIRE, but there are additions to this at the local government level and at the federal government level, but just this year alone, 68 arsonists have been pulled off the street, put in jail. That's 68 people that were looking to nefariously start fires somewhere in the state of California that are no longer available to do that. And that is a big undertaking. It is also a big benefit to all of us, and one that should never be understated, that we do have an enforcement capability, and that is ongoing regardless of the season and regardless of the fire activity that we're having. With that, I'm going to pass the mic to Director Ghilarducci, Cal OES.
Thanks, Tom. Good to be with you today. First of all, let me just say our hearts go out to all those who have suffered loss in this fire. This has been a challenging few days, in a challenging month, in a challenging year. We get it. We have Tom mentioned multiple fires, 26 fires or so he talks about those are major fires. But we've literally had fires from the Mexican border to the Oregon border that we've had to deal with this year, many simultaneously. Those have resulted in loss of some 15,000 plus structures, people's homes. We get that. But we've been here before, unfortunately. And we'll get through this as we have gotten through the fires of the past. In 2017, we came together as a state, as a community, to work to address all of the needs of the community, both in Napa and in Sonoma. And, we're actively working to do that again. Right now for this fire, obviously the governor's proclaimed a state of emergency. That's opened up certain resources, directed my office to task state agencies and bring together all of the assets that are necessary to be able to fight these fires. It is a complete all hands on deck. And we're doing that much represented by all the agencies and departments you see behind us. It's not just state, it's local, it's private, it's federal, it's international. We've had teams here from Canada and Israel and Mexico. So really we are leveraging all that, and we are also leveraging our military, both from the National Guard and our Title 10 active duty forces that are actively working on the ground at a number of these fires in California. So the enormity of all this, to put it into perspective, is something that's really stretching all of us. For a state as capable, as resource-rich, and as battle-tested as we are having to work together to navigate. And you, the public, are a huge part of that effort. We cannot do it without you. Your cooperation, your understanding, the need for you to evacuate when you're told to evacuate, to clear out an area so that the firefighters could go in and do structural protection or actual firefighting versus rescue is a huge step and a very important one. We have also been able to get a fire management assistance grant from the federal government through FEMA for this fire. Between what the governor has provided through the California Disaster Assistance Act and what FEMA has provided through the Fire Management Assistance Grant. Those are funds that help local government and the state to get the resources that are needed. We don't want to have a gap in funding, and we do not have a gap in funding. We are focused on that. Now the effort is to do damage assessment, and we are actively doing that. It's a combination of Cal OES, our local governments, Napa and Sonoma counties, Cal Fire, California National Guard, using all sorts of technologies to be able to rapidly assess structure loss and structure damage. That, in turn, as we get all of that data, can be turned into another request for a major disaster declaration from the White House. That would be actually the third major disaster request that California has asked for in really the last month. Doing all of this, of course, in a COVID environment has added another complexity, as you can just see from this incident command base on how we're having to deal with things in that COVID. And all of you as individuals, if you've been told to evacuate, not evacuating into a congregate shelter as we typically do, but we'll work to get you into hotels, keep you as a family and as a cohort. And if you are in a congregate shelter, try to minimize your time there, but do it in a COVID-safe way. So a lot of things, it's not the norm by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something that we are working through together. One thing I need to say is that we were successful in getting a major disaster declaration for the LNU complex, lightning complex fires. That's the fire that fires that immediately preceded this glass fire. We have announced that individuals who have suffered loss in the LNU complex fire can seek disaster aid, can call FEMA, register for FEMA disaster assistance for immediate needs, etc. We do not have that yet for the glass fire. So we do know that people of the glass fire are calling FEMA and registering for disaster assistance. I just want to make it clear that until that program gets turned on, and we are working diligently to make that happen, if you've suffered loss in the glass fire, we're not quite yet where we can get you into individual assistance programs by FEMA. So more on that as the day goes on. We're hoping to have better news on that in the coming weeks. In the meantime, we are working with the county to open up yet another local assistance center, both in Napa and in Sonoma, to provide state agencies, local governments, non-governmental entities to provide immediate need funding to be able to provide record replacement, vital records, tax forms, driver's licenses, and things that you may have suffered. And we'll have all of the agencies there as a one-stop shop. We'll do it both in person and we'll do it virtually. So that's all I want to say from OES. We have been with you before. Remember that the process is that we are at the firefight, and then we do the damage assessment, and then we get the disaster recovery programs. We start working with you to get your immediate needs taken care of. And then we start to look at the debris clearance operations. In the LNU complex, we're about 2/3 of the way clear already with doing the hazardous materials removal from those parcels that have been impacted. And within about 30 days or so, we'll be in a position to begin the debris clearance operation. For the glass fire, we are far from that because we are still actively in the firefight. So this is a marathon. I ask that you have patience. I've been up here in front of you before on multiple occasions with the same message. Patience, cooperation, understand it is a marathon, not a sprint, but we will be with you and we'll get through this together as we have in the past. And let me just close by expressing my deep appreciation to all of our mutual aid partners in the state, local government, law enforcement, fire, emergency medical, emergency management, all coming to support CAL FIRE and these two counties. It is unlike any other place in the country, and so deeply appreciated for all that effort. With that, I'm just going to turn it over to, who's next? General Baldwin.
Thanks, Director, and good afternoon, everybody. The military has 2,200 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines responding to emergency operations throughout the state. Of those, 1,800 come from the Cal Guard, so we have soldiers and airmen that are fighting the fires on the ground as member of hand crews. We have helicopters that are conducting fire suppression efforts. We're flying aerial tankers. We're also using our reconnaissance aircraft to do fire mapping and a very important mission of damage assessment, which assists the emergency management officials at the county and the state and the federal level in rapidly counting up the number of structures destroyed to help us get over that threshold to provide the individual assistance that the people that have been harmed by these fires desperately need. So we're in this fight from the ground to the air, and we're even using space-based assets for our airmen in the Air National Guard that are part of the new Space Force that are using satellite technology to assist with CAL FIRE fire detections, fire mapping, and we'll be able to use that also for damage assessment. So this has been about 10% of the California National Guard is employed in this effort. As you may know, our primary mission is the war fight, to fight and win our nation's wars, but what makes the National Guard unique is that we come from the communities that we also have the privilege of participating in this interagency team to become part of, to help support people and help save lives and save property during times of disaster like this. So I'll be followed by Warren Stanley, who's Commissioner of the Highway Patrol.
Thank you, General, and good afternoon, everyone. Representing the CHP throughout the state, we have about 70 personnel assisting with these 23 fires throughout the state. Specifically, here at this fire, the glass fire, we have 30 personnel assigned, assisting with traffic control, evacuation, and general law enforcement. And one of the things that is so important, I spoke about a little bit earlier, at the traffic control points, and we all know that people want to get back to their homes and see what's going on. Did my home survive? Did it get burned down? But just remember, when we have law enforcement personnel there, whether it be a CHP officer or a local police department officer or a sheriff's deputy, that they're there to keep you safe. If the roadway's shut down, it's for a reason, because we still have active fire that CAL FIRE and our other fire department partners are trying to put that fire out, and we want to make sure we can get them in and out of there safely and get their equipment in and out safely, and other first responders that are going in to help fight these fires and mitigate this situation. And lastly, one thing that's very important, I think everybody before me has spoken about it, and I want to reemphasize it, is evacuations. If you get a knock on your door, you hear that high-low siren, you have a deputy or a CHP officer or a PD officer knocking on your door, you get the reverse 911 call to evacuate. Please evacuate, because we want to get you to safety. The fire is bad, but even worse than that is the loss of life, and we want to minimize or eliminate the loss of life, and that's so important to us. And I want to thank all our law enforcement partners, not only here, but up and down the state, working together and collaborating to mitigate these fires and get them out as soon as possible. Thank you for your time today, Jonathan.
Thank you. We have a few minutes for just 2 or 3 questions.
I'm wondering if you've already observed any change in fire activity relative to the arrival or shift of wind, and I'm also wondering what it would take to, in terms of that southwestern branch on the Sonoma County side, southeastern rather, towards Kenwood and Glen Ellen, what it would take to trigger any additional warning or evacuation there?
Sure. So the question was related to any fire activity increasing we've seen since the weather has changed, as well as what would the triggers be for evacuations in the Kenwood, Glen Ellen area.
As far as the wind change, that was predicted for this afternoon. Today we've seen increase in fire activity throughout many portions of the incident. As far as what it's going to take in that southeast corner and southwest corner that you're talking about there, obviously if we do have winds that come through and heat up the current fire activity that's within the perimeter that's been established in that area, there's a high probability that there will be spot fires created from ember casts coming out of any of the heavy vegetation. We do have resources in there working diligently, securing that perimeter the best way we can at this point. It's unpredictable with what type of wind patterns. There's an old common saying, where the wind blows, that's where the fire is going to go. And that's pretty much how we're going to watch this for right now and plan for and be aggressive with our tactical decisions on the ground.
What do we have to thank for there not being fatalities that are known? Is it our behavior? Is it early evacuations? Is there anything this time that's so different than times?
Sure. So the question was related to what was the difference this time versus what was in the past, and I'm happy to refer Chief Gosner or Chief Jones, who've been here since the beginning.
I would attribute it to a few things. One, we are kind of a battle-tested community, so everyone's aware of what's going on. We knew there was fire in Napa, so most communities were aware of that. I spent a lot of time in Oakmont that afternoon talking to residents, and everyone was aware of what was going on with the smoke in the air. The other factor is that we really evacuated as early as we could, right? Until we knew really what was going on. By the time we knew there was a spot fire, which was reported at 5 acres, to the time somebody got on scene and said, no, it's 50 acres. And by the way, there's a second one that's 75 acres. That's when we pulled the trigger to evacuate. And we did it in a way where we did one side first, the north side first. We put the south side on a warning, and when the north side was done, and we did the south side. And that worked very well. That doesn't mean there wasn't traffic. That doesn't mean there wasn't difficulty for some. But we believe that really played well for everyone. And everyone was they understood what was going on. So most of the people were starting to move out anyways. I'm not on Facebook, but a lot of those people are, and they're hearing stories from different areas, and you know how that spreads through media. So I think there's multiple factors, but the number one is that the people of Sonoma County and Napa County, they're pretty battle hardened when it comes to the wildfire season.
So all of what Chief Gosner said is true, but adding on to that, we had a number of tools available to us as well. The cooperation and the organization of CAL FIRE and our local government cooperators, being able to order resources and utilize them. We had staffing also, and we utilized night air ops or air attack. So they were in the air. They helped us with evaluating where the fire was going, and it did assist us in identifying where we needed to go, and then working with our local government partners, making the notifications through all the folks that you see behind me to let them know and work a coordinated effort with all of them, having them at the incident command post and right there at our hips, so that we all had that opportunity to talk and discuss and to get that word out for the evacuations. That was a great thing. In addition, we had the use of the fire cameras, and that helped us evaluate and identify where things were going. When we get a report, we do tune in and use those cameras. We also used some technology that we have, Techno Silva, to identify what the fire would look like when for a 25-mile-an-hour wind, a 35-mile-an-hour wind, and we had that available to us as well. So all those tools, the availability of our CAL FIRE crews and the local government, that really helped us tremendously to get to where we are tonight. Thank you.
All right, we have time for one final question if anyone has one. Go ahead.
I guess I'm wondering for our state officials, you know, we're in a situation now where we obviously are anticipating an increased number of wildfires, and we, more than anyone else probably in the state, perhaps, know what it's like to have a succession of them, one after the other. We've seen, heard these reports of, a desperate need for resources. What are we looking at going forward? What are we thinking about how to address this situation where we see how tired everybody is? And I'm not trying to suggest blame anywhere, but how do we address this? How do we think about this going forward, about trying to supply the needed people on the ground?
So the question is really, what does this look like going forward based on where we're at right now?
What can we do?
And what can we do? Sure. Chief Porter, would you like to?
Well, it is a good question. Where do we go from here? What does the future hold? And really what we're looking at is a point in time that is much like a point in time that happened just over 100 years ago. 1910, great fires occurred in the Pacific Northwest. They really created and changed the way wildfire was looked at thought and science that was developed to do all of those things at that point in time and carried for 100 years. It didn't do the right thing. It didn't do what we need it to do now. It might have been fine when there were that few people on the landscape. But in California, with 40 million people, there isn't a fire that we're going to have that isn't going to impact people at some point in the near future. And so what we're looking at, and this is something that we are currently doing, we have been doing for the last several years, and it will take several decades to get to the point where we really need to be. But what we're doing is looking at it holistically. It's not just more firefighters. It's not just more aircraft. It's not just more fuels reduction project work. It's not just defensible space or home hardening. It is absolutely every one of those things. We need every piece of the system to be raised to meet the challenge that the changing climate is giving us and that California is going to be in the future. Every acre in California can and will burn someday. And we need to embrace that and become resilient to it by embracing the entire system approach to fixing this problem.
All right, just want to thank all of our state leaders who were joined us today. Just a reminder, the next press conference will be back at 11 a.m. tomorrow at this same location. We will be available after this for one-on-one questions should you have them.